Welcome, friends. Fantastic to have you with us again. We are doing another session of trusting God to download some amazing kingdom business principles from some of the men and women in our church. Things they've walked out over years, download from their heart into yours. So thank you for being with us. I trust it'll be a time of encouragement for you financially and in your business context. And I'm very excited today to have Marthinus van Westhuizen with me. Marthinus is a man that's been in our church for a number of years, grew up here really, and has been in business in the local area also for a number of years. And it really has some fantastic stories, has walked an amazing journey, and I think seen God's involvement most steps of the way. So Marthinus, thanks for being here today. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for being willing to share some of the principles and practicals and stories that you have. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Alistair. Thanks for inviting me. It's a privilege being here.
Maybe we can just start with really a bit of your background business journey. You know, you are where you are today, running a very successful business, and I think in a partnership level now, it's kind of grown into something quite considerable, Untouched Adventures. And that's been very successful, but it started very small. Share with us some of your story of how it started.
Yeah, it's been many years now. I think looking back, just going through some of your questions that you asked earlier on, I just had some time to just think back and think how good God has been over the years. Coming out of school, growing up in Jeffreys, I didn't really know where to go, what to do. Didn't really know which direction to go into. Friends went off to varsity. Other friends went off to London to go work there. And I was a bit stuck. And I really was at a place where I started feeling also the prompting of God just saying to me, just wait on Him. Just spend some time and really find out from Him what is it that He would like me to do and what direction that I need to take in life. And I engaged with that. I threw myself into that and started trusting God, praying, went into a season of just waiting on Him. It was a full year of just waiting on God.
Wow.
I think it was one of my toughest...
Stressing out your parents, I'm sure.
toughest years, I think. That year felt like a decade. But then I got a breakthrough. At the end of the year, I was still sitting on the beach one day, and I was just praying and said, "Geez, God, I'm so frustrated. Please help me, show me, give me direction. What would you like me to do?" And I felt God said, "Stick your hand in the sand." So I did. I stuck my hand in the sand, and I felt this thing. I pulled this plastic thing out, and it was a plastic scuba diver toy. And I felt God said, "Pursue this." So I did. And to make a long story short...
Maybe to jump in, that scuba and that side of things was something that had been an option for you before?
When I did a course, I loved it. I love the ocean. It's always been a dream, being in the ocean. So it is definitely lined up with passions and that I've had for many years. So it did make sense. And it was almost like a confirmation of what was already inside my heart. And then, literally 2 weeks later, started working as a scuba diver. I started working myself up, got the dream of starting a scuba diving school. 2 years later, opened up the scuba diving school. And that developed into an adventure company that we have today. And I think in that time, it was a really difficult time, that year of trying to wait on God and really wait to hear His voice and find direction for Him. But that for me really engraved in my heart the value of waiting and the value of hearing God's voice and finding His direction and not leaning on my own plan and making my own. Because when you're an 18-year-old boy, you've got big dreams and you want to do stuff and you want to go out there and make plans and in that time having to step back and say, okay, I'm going to wait on God until He gives me direction was for me, and for me now looking back and seeing the fruit of that and enjoying the fruit of that for me now is for me it just engraves it even deeper into my heart the importance of waiting on God, hearing His voice, and leaning on His guidance rather than leaning on my own understanding, and not putting confidence in my own ability to make a plan and my own ability to strategize and my own. And I mean, yes, God has given me ability and God has given me a brain to think and strategize, but I don't put my confidence in that. I put my confidence in my good Father that's got a plan for my life, that's got a purpose for my life, and and I put my confidence in Him, in His ability to lead me and guide me. And for me, that's become like the biggest testimony for me, just to wait on Him, and I hope that answers a little bit of,
That's
of what you
precious.
say.
It's amazing. You did a big jump there.
Okay.
You found the scuba diver in the sand, plus, and now you've got a successful business.
Yeah.
I remember I have the privilege of observing a few things over the years.
Yeah.
I remember you had a converted shipping container of sorts down at Main Beach, Jeffreys Bay, that you're running some of your courses out of with your scuba diving. And then suddenly, a few months later, you would change location, change setup a bit, and that change there seemed to trigger a lot of the growth that happened. What were some of your thought processes when you're in that container to a little bit later you're in the new place? How did that transition happen for you?
Yeah, sometimes it's a good question. I think, I mean, those early stages were difficult. Flip, if I think back of those early years, and just trying to hear God's voice, trying to find purpose in the business, and also trying to make the business work in those early years was really hard. It was really difficult. And in the midst of all of that, then I still got sick as well. And the doctor came to me and with you mentioned that container, just setting up the container, gone into debt, bought lots of things just before a big season. And the doctor comes to me and says to me, "Listen, you've got cancer. You're gonna have to go into 9 months of chemo." And that's in the start of the business. And then I also just had to remind myself again and say, but this is God is in this thing. God has promised this thing, and I had to stick it out and stick it through. And I mean, there's lots of stories of those early days of of God's goodness and God coming through for me in radical ways, and in my ignorance, God still pulling me through and still step by step helping me to succeed. And finding purpose in what I was doing, and going through those stages of I went through different stages of trying it here in this location, finding out that this location is not really it's not going to work. Jeffreys Bay really battles with we don't really get international tourists, not enough international tourists coming through here. And then I realized, but I'm going to have to look at some other different areas. And that's where I started moving down to the garden route, to Tsikama, because we've got more of a flow of international tourists. But working in Jeffreys Bay has really helped me realizing the need of not just your international tourists, but also looking after your local clients and building local clients. And I've been very involved with the schools. And once I did operate in Tsikama, it really helped me to combine those two strategies together of looking after your international clients, but also looking after your local clients, and combining those two together really helped me to excel in the business in the end of the day. And I think even today, it's put us in a good place, with the lockdown, with the internationals. We're not sure when the internationals are able to come back again, but it's given us a bit of a safety knowing that we still have a strong local support as well. We're not 100% relying only on the international clients. So,
I think for me, as you share that, it's just amazing. I pick up a couple of things. The one coming to me is don't opt out when it's getting difficult, because
Yeah.
God's not going to opt out on you.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I would love to focus on that, because I think that for me was the core of my story, is don't give up. And I think I had it a bit better because I did not have a plan B. I didn't have an exit strategy. And I think too many people do in business. In the back of their mind, they've got a plan B and they've got an exit strategy. But I was convinced that I heard God's voice. I was committed to the process, and I did not have a plan B. This had to work. this was my only strategy. And I mean, I love that story of there's a war story of this general with his army. They go into occupy this country, and as they land with all their ships, they land on the beachfront, and the army charges ahead, but he stays back, and he goes and he blows up all these ships, his own ships. He blows up all his own ships. Have you heard of this story?
I haven't heard it. I'm liking it.
Yeah. So he blows up all his ships, and his army says to him, "What the heck? What's going on? Why are you blowing up our own ships?" And he stands up. He says to them, "Guys, now we have to win this fight. We don't have an exit strategy. There is no plan B. If we lose here, we're gonna die." So that just gave these guys just a bit of an extra motivation. They have to go and win this fight. And I think in business, and we have to have that tenacity where you say you're going to make this, you're going to commit to this process, you're going to commit to this thing. And I think that's why it's so important to hear God's voice, to be convinced that God is in this, so that you can commit to it and give everything to it. And how many times do we not know of people that give up just before they break through, or choose the easier route, and choose and bypass what God had in store for them. And God never said He's going to make it easy for us. I mean, there's no story, and I think that's what God loves. He loves the faith in it. He loves, and that's a faith that pleases Him. And it's a faith that we need in business, in kingdom business, to be able to know that God is in it, to be able to commit to it, to be able to have a depth of conviction that I'm not going to give up on it, to have a depth of commitment towards the process, to be able to pull through, and on the other side, to be able to look back and say, my goodness, God has been so good. He has been so faithful over and over and over. I mean, I've got lots of stories. I was telling you of when I was sick. And I mean, I had chemo, and in the hospital, I would have to sit and answer phone calls while I've got the drip in here. I have to answer phone calls. And then it would be my skipper that was on the boat. He was saying he can't start the engine. And I'm sitting here with the drip in. And then I would have to put this down, and then I have to sort out the problems. I'll tell you a funny story. So now I've got chemo. Going through the whole process, I got really sick afterwards. It took me a long time to recover afterwards. You get very nausea. But I also needed the income. So I had to get the business still going. So I had a skipper, I had a dive master, I had a scuba instructor. We had to make this thing work because I needed income to survive this 9 months of not being able to work. And in Jeffries, it's very seasonal. So December, January is the only time that you can make a little bit of an income. So I got out of hospital, very sick, in bed. Dive master phones me, says to me, or the skipper phones to me, says to me, listen, he's so sick, he can't take the boat out today. But I've got a full booking for the day. And I said, okay, no, it's fine, I'll take it out. But I mean, I am so sick. So I'm driving the boat to the harbor, to St. Francis at the harbor. On the way, I would have to stop, throw up because I'm so sick, get back in the vehicle, get there, get to the harbor, welcome all the clients, tell them, go back to the boat, vomit again, go back again. That's how real it was. It was hectic and it was intense. Go out to sea, did the first trip, beautiful dive, came back, everything was fine. Second trip, guys were waiting there for us for the second boat trip, loaded them up when the wind started picking up. and the wind started getting very strong. But I brought these guys back after their second dive. Now I've got 3 dives. Third dive was the last dive. I say to the clients, listen, the sea's quite rough. Are you sure you guys want to go out? I need the bucks. They're saying, they're all keen to go out on the dive. I said, okay, it's fine. Let me go.
I think I can see what's coming.
You can see where it's going. I'm so weak. I mean, I'm half, recovering from the chemo. Get out to sea. Here the guys go down. One of the clients go at the back of the boat. They break my scupper off my boat. Now, scupper is at the back of the boat that keeps the water from draining back into the boat. They were holding onto it. They shouldn't hold onto it, but they were holding onto it. They broke it. The ball that keeps the water from fell out, keeps the water from going back. They go down on the dive. Here I am at the top with the water starting to flood at the back. One of my batteries dies. Everything just goes wrong. One of my batteries dies. I have to drive in a circle. The wind really picks up. Massive big swell suddenly starts coming up. A huge current also picks up in the water. Scuba divers all over the place. I'm driving. I am sick. I'm really sick. I have to drive around, pick up scuba divers all over the place. But I mean, everyone was safe. Got back to the harbor with one engine back on the harbor. Everyone left, and I fell down on my knees and I said, "Flip God, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Where are you in all of this?" But at the end of the day, as I finished that season off, crazy season, I went into that 9 months of chemo, not being able to work. But when I finished, that day that I finished the chemo, I had 70 Rand left in the bank. I had just enough money made over that season for me to carry me through that time and being able to focus on recovering from the chemo. And it was just, how good is God, eh? How good is God and how faithful He is, even in a moment where you don't understand it and it doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel like God is in it. God was there, and His grace was sufficient.
That's so powerful. As you're talking, I'm picking up a few things. The one thing is to come through that level of continual challenge and obstacle. There's got to be something that's carrying you. Is it a clear vision that you feel you've got of this is what I'm heading towards, or is it just that presence of God with you in the journey that you know He's with you and He's got you? Is it a combination of both of those?
Yeah, definitely a combination of both of those. I think
alternative is you're Superman, which
no,
I'm not.
No, not at all. And I think that's why I can confidently tell me all these stories of all my mistakes that I've made. I've got lots of stories of mistakes that I've made. That I'm not going to go into all of that on camera, But I've got a confidence in God, and also because I've come out on the other side and I can look back and I can just see how faithful God has been in it, and I can confidently share these stories because of God's goodness. But for me, stuff that's really engraved in my heart, firstly, is that first thing of setting time apart to hear God's voice. I think that for me was one of the crux and the most crucial things. Setting that time apart and hearing His voice clearly, because that really helped me in those difficult times. Yeah. And it's like David, if you read it in the Psalms, he constantly reminded himself of what God has done for him and what God has said to him and the promises that God has spoken. And he would even say to him, he says, "Oh, my soul." He would talk to himself. He would write the Psalms to himself and says, "Oh, my soul, just wake up, remind. Why are you depressed? Why are you nervous? Why are you concerned about these things?" And he says, remember what God did for you. Remember what God said to you. And I think if you don't have that, if you can't stand on the promise, and if you can't stand on the word, and that's what God says. Faith comes by hearing His voice. If you haven't heard His voice, what are you basing it? Because what's the substance? If the word is not the substance, the promise of God is not the substance, then it's a weak foundation. Because then when that challenge comes, you're going to look for the exit strategy, you're going to look for the plan B, you're going to jump ship. If you don't have that substance of, and I think that's why it's so important to spend time with your Father, to hear His voice. And I mean, if Jesus, every time before he had a crucial moment in his life, he would go up the mountain to hear and spend time with his Father and hear his Father's voice. And I think for me, that is one of the principles that's really engraved in my heart, is to set time apart and wrestle with God and take the time. I mean, I thought the time was going to be a week. I thought maybe max a month. It ended up being a year before breaking through and wrestling with God and finding a direction in life. And I think that's really, really helped me. And that's one of the principles. And then on the other side, having the vision. Definitely, I do remember, sitting when you're going through that difficult times. I would set time apart and I would daydream, and I would just start daydreaming again about the promises and about where God is taking this thing and what God's dream is for this and the vision for this, and that was clear enough for me to go through the difficulties. And I think that combination, is crucial, to be able to hear God's voice in the beginning, to have the vision of where we're going, and that helps you through that middle phase of where it's confusing and where things doesn't work out, because it doesn't work out how we thought it's going to be, hey? And that's what God says, my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, my dreams are higher than your dreams. It's my ways are higher than your ways, and how I thought it's going to look like turns out completely different to it. But and I love what Pastor Louis said on Sunday: not having faith in the promise, and not having faith in what he said, but having faith in God and having faith in how good God is, and that God loves me. And that God has a plan and a purpose for my life, and He's going to lead me and He's going to guide me. And I think, and that gives you the confidence to stick in it and to stick through it and to commit to it.
That's powerful. I think as you're talking as well, something else that's standing out for me is in this muddy middle.
Yeah.
You mentioned it yourself. There's a lot of mistakes you make along the way.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people maybe get trapped in that perfectionist thing of the fear of making a mistake. Yeah. But if I listen to your story, it almost sounds you need to have a commitment to be able to walk through mistakes because they're coming. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I made so many mistakes. I think in the beginning, the business went through those phases as well. In the beginning, it was survival mode for me, and I'm going to tell you my process, and it's not to say that's how business process always have to be. I think people should actually jump some of those phases, hopefully. But
learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, but I mean, the beginning was survival mode. It was pure survival mode for me because I came straight from school, straight into trying to start a business, and first you have to try and learn how to deliver a good product. And not having the experience. And I mean, for me, I think if any young guy comes to me today and asks me, give me my suggestion is, I wouldn't suggest doing it the same way. Rather go and work for somebody, learn from somebody else first, and then go over. Don't just jump in there and go and do your own thing with zero experience, zero capital.
But that in and of itself is an amazing piece of advice, just that process of learning from others, because it's not, we don't do it on our own, do we?
No, definitely. But that's the process I chose. and then, so that beginning was survival mode, and it was going month to month, trying to just get through the month, and your head is down, trying to work out how to deliver a good product, trying to work out how to run a business. But then I broke through into a different phase of business, and that was into a growth phase of business, and the business really started to grow. But that for me was just as stressful, because now you had to learn how to manage people and learn how to train people and develop people, because now they had to go and do it so that you can step out and start working on your business and not in your business. And it's a whole different transition to go from those two, and the stress of having to get the structures and the things systems in place for it to run smoothly and to keep growing. Because if you grow too fast, you can implode. And I think that was the second phase for me. But then I also broke through into a third phase for me, and that was discovering the purposes of God that God has for the business. Realizing that the business is not just there for me to create an income, or for me to pay salaries, or for me to do something, but God gave me the business for a reason and for a purpose, and the purpose to advance His kingdom. And when I broke into that season, that was a whole new phase of understanding, finding out that, hey, that God has given me this business to advance His kingdom, to not only see finances released, to see finances released in the kingdom, but also to see lives change. Right. And not only to see my life change and my family's life being blessed out of the business, but to see many other people's life change in the business. And I think that's been for me an exciting process to go through those phases into the. And I think that for me it's also the key today, is for a business to find God's purpose in the business. That there is a reason why God has given you that business to run and to manage, and I think that's
a powerful thought for me, because I think it's like you say, if we know God carries the blessing and the grace for anything and everything to succeed, and when we know He has a purpose, not just for you as an individual, but in a business context, God's got a purpose for that thing, for the people in and around that. If I can align with that, then that becomes something that God wants to bless, because it's something that God's heart is for.
That's it.
So gives
you confidence.
What does that term, because you hear it around, kingdom business, what does that term mean for you? And how has that kind of started to roll out in your business context?
I mean, that's the kingdom business for me. It's a business that is advancing the kingdom, that's advancing the rule and reign of the King, and he, with His values and with His principles, and how the business is advancing can be in different ways. But I think that's for me the core of it. If your business is not advancing the kingdom, it's not a kingdom business, you know. And I mean, there's different ways of course, with God releasing finances, so that the finances can be used to advance the kingdom. I mean, that is of course. And for me also as seeing, for me shifting, a big shift came to really focus on even my staff, and seeing God's kingdom advance in their lives. And I've really been enjoying spending a lot of time with them, mentoring and discipling them with values of the kingdom and ways of thinking of the kingdom, and a whole new and the truth, and showing them how the biblical truth really makes sense in a practical way in our business, in our lives, and spending a lot of time, and also giving them the realization that they are in contact every day with other people. And there's moments in that contact where they can be a tool in God's hands to make a difference in their lives, where they can take them on a kayak expedition, and they have a client that is full of fear because they don't want to let's say they need to do a jump from the rocks, and they do the jump. They can go up to that person and encourage.
Do they have to do a jump from the rocks?
Yes, that's a place where they can do a jump from the rocks, and people are normally scared of that. And once they've done it, they feel like they've achieved something. You know, we get people that come and do our adventures that's got no experience or that's never done anything adventurous ever in their life. And once they've done it, they feel so, wow, I can do it. And this guide can actually go up to them and say, hey, you've actually done this. You can do it. You can do it in life. And I mean, they can actually encourage a person in who they are and confirm who they are in life. And it's actually because that person is in such a vulnerable place, they can make such a massive big difference in somebody's life on the river while having fun, having an adventure, and being able to see that, hey, this is what God has given me. It's not just a job. It's not just a business. God has given this to me as a tool to advance His kingdom, to represent Him, to represent who He is as a loving Father, as a kind Father. And I think for me, that makes business so exciting. I think that's why I've got such a passion for business. Because it is, for me, it feels like it's one of the most effective tools to advance the kingdom.
That's amazing to me. So you can have one day where you don't cut your profit margin, but you touch a few lives.
Yeah.
And it's been all worth it.
That's it. And I think that for me is the key, where business is not anymore about the numbers. It's not only anymore just about the numbers. And I think that's a big shift that we have to do, because we can get stuck in the numbers, especially when you're in that survival mode. Because, I mean, you're just trying to get through so you're looking at just the numbers, and and then you're going into that growth phase where you're trying to get profit and you're trying to increase your profit. So everything is about the success of your business then is based on, at the end of the day, what is your net profit that you've made. But we have to switch over where it's not about the numbers anymore. That where the success of our business is based on how we're advancing the kingdom of God through the business. How we're advancing people's lives through the business. The numbers can do whatever. And I mean, God will, when we are advancing the kingdom, God is going to back it up because we're advancing His kingdom. And He says, seek first my kingdom, and I will add all these things. So yes, the numbers will follow, but I'm just saying, where's my focus is not only on the numbers. Yes, the numbers is important, because for a business to survive, for a business to thrive, at the end of the day, the numbers must work. There must be net profit. There must be money to be able to pay salaries. But for me, I don't base the success of the business based on the numbers anymore. It's based on, hey, how can I advance the kingdom through this, whose lives has been touched and changed through this business. And it's given me it's just an incredible excitement for business and realizing the platform that God has given us.
Marthinus, thank you very much. It has really, really been encouraging just for me, even sitting here, gleaning and learning something from you as you share. You carry such a heart of God with such a humility in your story and in your life, the way you carry yourself and live. And I think there's a lot we can all learn from you and from the process that God has walked with you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Alistair. What a privilege.
Thank you for being with us today. I hope that this has been encouraging for you. I know it has. There's a lot of nuggets in there of truth, wisdom, and revelation that if you engage, grab hold of it, and push into your own relationship with God, you're going to be encouraged, blessed, and catapulted into what the Lord has for you. Thank you for being with us today. Bless you. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that's been an encouraging time for you, just listening to the heart that we've had shared so wonderfully through that interview. And I want to really encourage you in this time. God's got something for you. If you find yourself in a place that you just need some prayer in and around your finances or business, or you need someone to chat to just with a few thoughts and advice, you can contact our church in this time. We've got a number of people who've made themselves available, mature men and women in the church who've really walked the road with God and have got something to share and impart. You can contact our Victory Church hotline at the moment. Contact that number that's showing on the screen, and we'll be able to set up a time that someone can connect with you, pray with you, encourage you, and speak into your situation a bit. So bless you, and we are really trusting that God will unfold His purposes in your specific situation in this time. Thank you.